Friends, what if I told you that former Iranian President Ahmadinejad, who once called for Israel to be wiped off the map, was actually a secret agent secretly trained by Israel's Mossad? Would you believe it? That sounds way too absurd. But this isn't just a rumor. It's an exclusive investigation jointly released by the New York Times and Israel's Haaretz in the past couple of days, and it's been corroborated by more than 30 insiders from American, Israeli, and Iranian intelligence and political circles. Since 2022, Mossad has been secretly grooming Ahmadinejad, spending 4 years and paying to rehabilitate his image. The head of Mossad even personally met with him in secret, with the goal of waiting for the day the Iranian regime collapses so they can install this anti-Israel hardliner as the new leader and have him sign the Abraham Accords on behalf of Iran, officially recognizing Israel. On February 28th of this year, when American and Israeli missiles destroyed the residence of Iran's supreme leader Khamenei, a black Peugeot sedan driven by Mossad agents quietly picked up former Iranian President Ahmadinejad just a few kilometers away. Today's episode is going to be truly fascinating. We're going to peel back the layers of Mossad's boldest recruitment operation and see how this earth-shattering scheme managed to secretly win over Tehran's tough guy, once known for his extreme anti-Israel stance and his calls to wipe Israel off the map, step by step. In 2013, after serving 8 years as president, Ahmadinejad stepped down. Normally, after leaving office, a former president would keep a low profile, maybe write some memoirs, give a few lectures at universities, and occasionally make a TV appearance. That's exactly how Iran's previous former president, Khatami, spent his days. But Ahmadinejad was different. If you line up all his public photos from the past decade or so, you'll notice something pretty strange. This guy has been quietly transforming himself. The first odd thing shows up in his clothes. That signature, loose-fitting khaki jacket he always wore while in office is gone, replaced by well-tailored designer suits. You have to understand, that khaki jacket was his political symbol. It was the outfit of the son of the people, a gesture of goodwill toward Iran's lower classes. During his 8 years in office, he almost never took it off, but after stepping down, that jacket completely disappeared from the public eye. The second strange thing is about his face. He started grooming his beard more and more meticulously, and according to several international media outlets, it seems like he's had Botox injections in his forehead and cheeks. Think about it. He came from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, representing fundamentalism, ascetic religious devotion, and was a hardcore, no-nonsense figure staunchly opposed to Western PR tactics. In Iran's tough political culture, a man's beard and rugged appearance are symbols of devotion and determination. But tailored suits and Botox are symbols of Western pop culture. It's truly surprising that this religious faction, which has spent half its life denouncing the decadence of the West, actually uses Botox to maintain a youthful appearance. It's like a lifelong ascetic who preaches vegetarianism being caught secretly gorging on top-grade Wagyu beef. Lastly, let's talk about language. He started learning English, interacting with foreign netizens on Twitter X in English, and even reposted lyrics from American rappers along with his own reflections. What's even more outrageous is that he even started hosting tea gatherings on the streets of Tehran, listening to ordinary people complain about corruption, and publicly criticizing the Iranian security forces for being too harsh and suppressing protests. Is this really the same man who once shouted in the UN hall that Israel should be wiped off the map? When a person's stance changes, it might be called growth, but when someone changes from head to toe, from their clothes to their language to their lifestyle, that's not just simple growth anymore. So what is driving him to change? With this question in mind, let's move to 2017. That year, Trump had just taken office as President of the United States. In February, Ahmadinejad did something that stunned the entire Tehran leadership. He wrote an open letter to Trump. It was a long letter, and the wording was so polite that it was hard to believe he was the one who wrote it. Just picture this. While the Iranian government was still calling Trump the Great Satan on TV every day, a former Iranian president actually wrote an open letter directly to this so-called Satan. Isn't that strange? If it were just this one letter, you might think he'd lost his mind. But a few years later, he wrote another open letter, this time to Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. You have to realize Saudi Arabia is Iran's biggest geopolitical rival in the Middle East. So why did he write these two letters to two enemies? It was only later that we found out it was precisely these two open letters that made the intelligence department of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard turn their radar on Ahmadinejad for the first time. At the same time, something else happened. Ahmadinejad registered to run for president 3 times, but each time his candidacy was disqualified by the Guardian Council under Supreme Leader Khamenei. In 2017, 2021, and 2024, each rejection was more decisive than the last. Now try to put yourself in Ahmadinejad's shoes. He once stood at the pinnacle of power, but now he's being repeatedly suppressed by his own system. Can you imagine how stifled and frustrated he must feel? Keep in mind, when someone is pushed to a dead end within the system, the resentment that builds up inside them is exactly the fuel that outside forces are eager to ignite. Soon, the suspense reaches its climax. In the fall of 2024, just 2 months after losing the presidential election for the 3rd time, Ahmadinejad gave an exclusive interview to CNN Turkey. And it was during this backlash that he dropped a bombshell that shocked intelligence circles around the world. He said that the counterintelligence team within Iran's intelligence system, which was specifically tasked with preventing Mossad infiltration, from the team leader down to the other 20 members, were all double agents working for Mossad. He said they had been exposed as early as 2021, but all of them managed to escape afterward and are now living in Israel. Think about it. How could a former president who has been out of office for 11 years have access to such detailed and sensitive internal secrets of the counterintelligence system? And why did he choose this particular moment to make this information public? Is he trying to warn the Iranian leadership? Or is he using this public statement to send a signal to a specific group outside of Iran? Either he has long been closely connected with Mossad, which is how he knows such detailed inside information, but then why would he still want to warn the Khamenei government after being disqualified from running for office for the 3rd time? So the only possibility is that he's using the media to pledge his allegiance. He's hinting, I know your secrets. I know your escape routes. I'm familiar with this game, and I have what you want most. It's time for you to come to me. At this point, if you were an intelligence analyst, you'd already have a huge stack of clues. His image is changing, his language is changing, his stance is softening, he's writing letters to the enemy country's leader, he's repeatedly kicked out by his own people, and suddenly he's leaking sensitive information about the internal counterintelligence system. When you put all these clues together, they all point in the same direction. What we just saw were only scattered traces from the past decade or so. What really ties all these clues together is a major investigation released simultaneously by the New York Times and Israel's Haaretz on July 13th of this year. This investigation drew on more than 30 internal sources from the United States, Israel, and Iran, ranging from politicians to diplomats to intelligence officers. In the end, both media outlets published their reports independently, corroborating each other's findings. This investigation has finally revealed the real hidden threads behind all the mysteries of the past decade or so. Mossad's operation started much earlier than we imagined. Now we're going to talk about the inside story, so agents, listen up. According to the Iranian intelligence community's later investigation, the earliest contact between Mossad and Nejad happened in 2023. That year, Nejad accepted what seemed like an unremarkable invitation to fly to Guatemala, a small country in Central America, to attend a so-called environmental forum. Why Guatemala? Because it's Israel's closest ally in Latin America. According to Iranian officials' leader accounts, it was during a break at that forum that Mossad agents sat across from Nejad for the first time. By early 2024, the contact escalated. One day, a call suddenly came into the office of Professor Gergely Deli, the president of Ludovica University of Public Service in Budapest, Hungary. The caller was a high-ranking Hungarian government official with a sensitive identity. This official made a strange request to President Daley to organize an international academic conference on climate change in the name of the university, and then invite former Iranian President Ahmadinejad to give a speech. President Daley was stunned on the spot after hearing this. Letting an extreme anti-Western politician who denies the Nazi Holocaust come to a European university to talk about climate change? What would that do to our school's reputation? But in the next second, the official lowered his voice on the phone and said something that sent a chill down Professor Deli's spine. The officials said that the climate conference was just a cover. The real purpose was to give Ahmadinejad a legitimate reason to leave Iran, so he could come to Budapest and secretly meet with the top leadership of Israel's Mossad. Later, Delhi admitted to the New York Times that he hesitated for a long time at the time, but ultimately convinced himself that if these two mortal enemies were willing to sit down and talk, the best thing he could do was to set the table for them. So this absurd climate conference opened as scheduled, and Ahmadinejad arrived as invited. During the conference, according to what Ahmadinejad's accompanying security guards later revealed to investigative journalists, Ahmadinejad managed to quietly slip away from all the Iranian guards at least twice, each time disappearing for several hours. At one point, a guard even asked him warily where he had gone, and he casually replied that he had just chatted with some university professors. And the so-called university professor he mentioned was actually David Barnea, the then director of Israel's Mossad. One was a former Iranian president who used to talk about wiping Israel off the map, and the other was the head of Israel's top intelligence agency. The two of them sat face-to-face across a table in a secret room in Budapest. No recordings, no notes, no third-party witnesses. After the meeting, Mossad sent a secret report to the CIA with just 5 words. Contact has been established. Looking back now at Ahmadinejad's revelations on CNN Turkey, doesn't it give you that sudden realization and a chilling feeling the more you think about it? In 2023, at the Guatemala Environmental Forum, a Mossad agent quietly sat across from Ahmadinejad for the first time, establishing contact. At the beginning of 2024, during the fake climate conference in Hungary, the head of Mossad personally showed up, sat across the table from him, and put forward a proposal for cooperation. By the fall of 2024, after losing his third election, Ahmadinejad gave a public interview and revealed that Iran's counterintelligence team was entirely made up of Mossad agents. This was his signal to Mossad, a gesture of allegiance. Moving into 2025, this secret line of contact was advancing even more aggressively. In June of that year, Ahmadinejad once again flew to Budapest, to the same university under the same academic pretense. Pay attention to this crucial moment. This happened just a few days before the US-Israel coalition launched a 12-day airstrike on Iran's nuclear facilities. The world's attention was fixed on Natanz and Fordo, and no one noticed what kind of deal a former Iranian president, ousted by his own country, was making with the head of Israeli intelligence in a cafe in Budapest. According to reports from the New York Times and Haaretz, Mossad paid a huge sum of money for these contacts. The money was secretly funneled through Ahmadinejad's longtime spokesman and political confidant, Ali Akbar Javanfak, to cover Ahmadinejad's overseas travel expenses, including airfare, hotels, and logistics. A former advisor who worked with Ahmadinejad, Abdelreza Davari, told the New York Times bluntly, he has money, he has a vast financial network, and he doesn't do this kind of thing for money. What he wants is power. He wants to stand at the top of power once again. In these secret meetings, Ahmadinejad confided his true ambitions to those closest to him. He compared himself to Yeltsin of Iran. Who is Yeltsin? In 1991, when the Soviet Union collapsed, it was Yeltsin who stood on a tank and pulled Russia out from the ruins of communism. So Ahmadinejad saw himself as Iran's Yeltsin. He said that as long as the current Iranian regime collapses, he is ready at any time to step forward as a savior and reformer, to fully reconcile with the United States, and he is even willing to have Iran officially recognize Israel and join the Abraham Accords led by Trump. By February 28, 2026, our story reaches its most thrilling climax. The US-Israel coalition launched a military strike against Iran, codenamed Arrow Fury. Over 900 precision-guided munitions bombarded the entire country of Iran within 12 hours. Supreme Leader Khamenei was precisely assassinated by the Israeli Air Force in his residence in Tehran. And on that very same morning, another Israeli missile thundered down into the courtyard of the Nejad family home. But this missile wasn't aimed at Nejad himself. With pinpoint accuracy, it destroyed the building where Nejad's security guards were stationed and blew apart his personal armored vehicle. This was Mossad using live ammunition to physically eliminate those loyalists to Khamenei, surveillance posts that kept Nejad under watch 24/7. According to 4 senior Iranian officials who later spoke to the New York Times, amid the chaos following the explosion, a black Peugeot quietly drove into the ruins. Behind the wheel was a Mossad ground team. They quickly picked up Nejad, sped away, and drove straight into a safe house that Mossad had already set up inside Iran. According to the original flawless plan by the US and Israel, as soon as Khamenei died, a power vacuum would emerge in Tehran. Then Mossad would escort Nejad to make a nationwide broadcast, form a transitional government, and take the opportunity to announce the end of the Islamic Republic and join the Abraham Accords. At the same time, Kurdish forces in the north would rise up, causing internal divisions within the Revolutionary Guard. The Iranian regime, which had lasted 47 years, could be completely replaced within just a few weeks. But in the end, this grand plan still didn't go as hoped. The problem arose in the safe house. According to reports, after Nejad arrived at the safe house, he had serious emotional issues and expressed strong dissatisfaction with his rescue. His home was bombed, the entire guard was wiped out, the security guard he had personally raised died in the rubble, and he himself was shoved into a strange car, becoming an open puppet of Mossad. He realized that if, at this very moment, he appeared according to Israel's script, he would never be able to shake off the label of being a Mossad puppet. What he wanted was to be like Yeltsin, to be lifted to power by the Iranian people, not to be branded a traitor brought to power by American and Israeli missiles. But at this point, a critical change occurred in the external situation. According to Israeli news outlets, a few days after the war began, the White House suddenly called off the plan to coordinate with the northern Kurdish forces to launch an uprising. The reason was that Vice President Vance explicitly opposed Turkish President Erdogan's pressure. Without the Kurdish ground forces, the entire multi-pronged script for regime change in Iran was missing a crucial lever to topple the Revolutionary Guard. With the ground support for toppling the regime cut off, Ahmadinejad alone couldn't possibly hold back the fanatical Revolutionary Guard. So one night, Ahmadinejad left that safe house. Did he escape on his own? Was he persuaded to leave? Or was he found by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard? The New York Times had only 3 words: no one knows. When he reappeared in the public eye, it was already at Khamenei's memorial ceremony in early July. In the video footage from that time, Ahmadinejad is seen wearing a black mask and a thick coat, looking weathered, surrounded tightly by a group of visibly tense security personnel. He didn't say a word, his eyes empty and hollow. 4 senior Iranian officials confirmed to the New York Times that this former president, who was once in the limelight and aspired to be Iran's Yeltsin, has now been placed under lifelong house arrest by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. Friends, after these reports came out in the past couple of days, Ahmadinejad's office angrily denounced them as a Hollywood-style fictional script. Inside Israel, things are in an uproar, while Mossad, as always, remains completely silent. So, is this the truth or just a lie? Is Ahmadinejad really a Mossad spy? Friends, what do you think? If you believe there's more than a 50% chance it's true, type "I believe." If you don't really believe it, type "don't believe." Let's see what you all choose. Leave a comment and let me know. Before the real files are declassified, no one can give a 100% certain answer. But there's a supreme rule in the intelligence world. Uncertainty itself is the most terrifying weapon. Alright, that's all for today. This has been a truly fascinating double-cross story. Friends, do you like stories like this? If you do, be sure to let me know in the comments. If you enjoy this kind of content, I'll make sure to bring you more in the future. If you enjoy my show, before you leave, I'd like to ask you for a small favor. If you haven't already given me a like, please go ahead and hit that like button. New friends, welcome to subscribe to True Perspective, and I'd also appreciate it if you could share my videos with more people. Don't forget about the fan hype feature. It helps my videos reach a wider audience. So I'd like to thank everyone here in advance. Alright, thank you all for watching. I wish everyone a great weekend, and don't forget, we'll meet again at the same time tomorrow on True Perspective. Bye!